Author's House.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, good morning, or whenever you're watching this. My name is Nick. I'm your host for Book Buzz TV. Today we have a very special guest. This is Frances Pitard, who has written the book The Little Girl Who Became a Giant. Frances, hello. Thank you for coming on.
Very good, thank you.
Yeah, so Frances, if you don't mind, maybe you can start by just telling us a little bit about yourself, some background, some history.
Well, I am a scientist, actually. Writing books like this one, it's a hobby. It's not my main business. I am a doctor in statistics, and but I wrote several novels and a biography of my old aunt that was in a concentration camp in Germany. And then my last book, it's that little one, about that little book that I call The Little Girl Who Became a Giant.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, it's a small book.
Well,
I did that book for children. I will say teenagers.
Okay. And what inspired you to write a book about Joan of Arc?
Because she's a girl. She was a young woman, and it is absolutely fascinating that she was illiterate. She could not write, but she was superiorly intelligent. And how is it conceivable that a young woman like that became the head of the army of an entire country in a world of men? It's in the 15th century. This was a world of men. A woman did not have a chance. How did she manage that, to perform such a thing at age 17? That is a fascinating thing, and that deserves a story.
Yeah. Did you find the Joan of Arc, like that story, to be kind of relevant to today's time, or were you always just interested in Joan of Arc?
It is very relevant for reasons that I will explain later in this interview.
Okay.
Because the way the story of Joan of Arc has been presented to me when I was young by the Catholic Church and this like that, is they don't put the right message across. They twist the their way. It's not really who she was, and I want to correct for that.
Okay. So how did you conduct your research to ensure a historical accuracy?
Well, number one, when I was younger, in my 20s, I visited the different area of France where she lived. So I was very familiar with what she did in a different location where she lives that are listed in the book. And then after that, I did some research, and I find amazing thing. I find, for example, that Mark Twain, that is very well known, spent 12 years to research the details of Joan of Arc life. He spent 12 years in France to do that. Oh. And it took him 2 years to write a huge book. It's 700-page small print. It's difficult to read, actually. But I say, okay. We want to take all that good information and create a smaller book for children, for teenagers, for young adults, to see if we can help them to have a dream for themselves, especially women.
Yes, that's really good. I like that. Like the message that you're kind of giving there. Did you mentioned Mark Twain, kind of researching for like 7 years. Did you find any challenges when you were writing this book?
Well, the challenge I had was you have to present a book like that with you have to have somebody that is a narrator.
Okay.
Okay, I choose the narrator to be the brother, her brother that she liked most. That was the most challenging for me, was to stick to what the brother has to say instead of what I have to say. You know? That
Yeah.
was a little bit of a discipline that I often, when I read my text after, I say, hey, you're telling your story, you abandoned the narrator. That was a challenge.
Yeah. Huh. Um, and and in your like research, did you find any specific historical details or events that you found particularly fascinating?
Oh yeah. When I did that research, first of all, I was fascinated by what Mark Twain did.
Hmm.
I recommend that book to anyone. This is a fabulous book. But after that, I realized that there were very famous people that were that admire Joan of Arc. One of them that I had no idea was Napoleon Bonaparte.
Huh.
You know, is Joan of Arc inspired him to win some of his famous battles.
Wow. Really?
Without the example of Joan of Arc, he could not have won some of his battles. That was fascinating. I had no idea about it.
Yeah.
And then after that, another one that I find fascinating is that one of her admirers was Winston Churchill. Winston Churchill wrote a book about Joan of Arc. I had no idea.
Yeah, I did not know that. That's really cool.
Yeah. And then after that, it was a quote. You remember Indira Gandhi in India?
Yeah.
Indira Gandhi said once, if it had not been what I read about Joan of Arc, I would have never gone in politics.
Huh.
Is that fascinating?
That's very fascinating.
So you find those details and you say, my God, that little girl was something, you know,
Yeah.
someone. That's
So
for
much,
sure.
yeah, so much influence throughout many,
From
many
toward
centuries.
history.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
And we're not finished on that. We will go where doing the later in the interview, okay?
The what? I'm sorry. What was that?
We will get to more detail on that during the interview before
Oh.
this interview is finished.
Yeah, sure. I do have a kind of like wondering here, do you have any personal connections or experiences that influence your portrayal of Joan of Arc or
Well, I had two novels that you republished actually, Earth of Valor Space and Rapanui Settlers.
Mhm.
And the main woman character here, Ina of the Valley, I take ideas from that character to transpose because there were some commonalities, if you want, coming from a very different world, but coming from the same challenge of a woman that become very important in a world of men. So that I had an influence here from my former books. It helped me. Let's put it that way. It helps me.
Yes. Okay. And what do you think makes Joan of Arc's story so relevant and important for readers today?
Because there is a big issue here.
Okay.
What if Joan of Arc will have not existed? Obviously, France was a French colony, a British colony. Okay. Mm-hmm. So if France remained a British colony because Joan of Arc never existed, then France will have never helped George Washington to create the US. Because without France, he could not make it.
Yes.
The influence of France during the creation of the US was absolutely vital. He could not have made it without we had the help from France. But if France had been a British colony, all of this would have never existed.
Mhm.
And so the concept of Lady Liberty will have never existed. The concept of Lady Liberty is a suite of it's a byproduct of Joan of Arc. So basically, without Joan of Arc, we may not be where we are today.
Yeah. Wow.
That is food for thought, you know.
Yeah. It's so interesting, right? Because it's something that happened so long ago. And it's just something that you just hear about like in history, but you don't realize the like how it would have affected so many other events.
I mean, yeah, it's a snowball effect in all directions. So
Yeah.
the world will have been completely different.
Hmm. And so were there any aspects of Joan of Arc's life or character that you found challenging to capture in your writing?
The fact that she was so brilliant when she was so young, you know, her brother start to realize that she was an amazing genius with words, creating sentence, words to explain something, to convince someone. The fact that she was illiterate, she could not write, she could not read, but she had an amazing talent with words. And that's fascinating. How did she got that? She started to have that talent when she was 8 years old. And it went better and better when she was 10, 11. And then what she did when she was at age 17 is just mind-boggling.
That's okay, incredible. Um, so given that this is like a children's book, um, how did you like balance staying true to the historical facts while also adding the creative elements to kind of keep the children involved and engaged?
Well, yes, I try very hard to stick to historical facts.
Mhm.
That's very important. I put a few detail on me to, you know, to embellish the book, but I kept it to a minimum.
Okay. Hmm. And so earlier in our interview, you mentioned that you wanted to get into certain things, certain details about Joan later. Can you elaborate on those more now?
Well, we already talked about the fact that without her, we will not be where we are today. She had probably an amazing, she was an amazing factor on history. That's a fact. And so we can philosoph on that a lot, but to me, uh, I stick to the story of the little girl. You
Mhm.
know, for example, many books on Joan of Arc emphasize on what they did to her, to condemn her, to burn her. You know, they emphasize the end
Yeah.
instead of emphasizing the beginning. I want to emphasize the beginning as a little girl. How is it conceivable that
Yes.
she became who she was at 17?
Hmm.
What after that, what they did to her after that is a scandal, but this is well known. They don't need me for those details.
Hmm. So, what do you think sets your book apart from other works about Joan of Arc? Obviously,
The fact that I emphasize on her young years
of her young years.
to see, wow, how is it conceivable that a little girl like that become who she was at 17 in a world of men? This, to me, is a fascinating thing that needs to be told.
Yeah. And so, did what came first? Did you want to write a children's book, and then you said, "I'm going to focus on the fact that Joan of Arc was a child, because that'll be
Mhm.
more relatable for the kids," or did you just find that um, part of her life the most interesting, and then you decided to make it into a children's book? What came first?
Um, I read everything I could find about Joan of Arc myself. I learned a lot. And I came to the conclusion that number one, the way the church presents the life of Joan of Arc it's okay, but it's not what is most inspiring.
Mhm.
You know, they don't explain how a little girl become who she was. According to the church, well, it was a miracle from God, and they leave it here. I said, no. She was a superiorly intelligent person. And I give you a quote of Mark Twain that is beautiful.
Okay.
He said, Joan of Arc is the most amazing woman that ever lived.
Hmm.
That's interesting by itself.
Yes. How do you think, um, like, was you like your approach in portraying Joan of Arc's inner thoughts and emotions? How do you think that got conveyed in your book?
Well, this is not an easy part. You know, when I write, I put all myself in a. You know, I become emotional when I write. Yes, and that emotion may transpire in the way I present the facts. You know, at time. Uh, but that is me. You know, that's who I am. Okay.
Yeah.
You will find that kind of emotion in all the books that I did.
Um, given it's been several years since Joan of Arc has passed, but how do you think Joan would have reacted to hearing the historical significance of her life today? What do you think she would? Do you think she'd be?
She will have been humble about it. You say, you don't have to do that. I am nobody. I'm just a little girl. She will have been extremely humble. She has been very humble all the time, except when you put her in battle.
Yeah.
That's fascinating. She was a metamorphose within seconds, you
Yeah.
know.
So how do you hope your book will contribute to the ongoing legacy and understanding of Joan of Arc?
I think I want to open the eyes of people on the fact that she changed history. We cannot deny that.
That Shan, sorry, what was that?
She changed the history
Mhm.
completely.
Oh yeah.
So we will not be where we are. We will not be in the kind of country we have today without her. And that, I think, I think we owe her some I don't know how you call that, but some recognition more than we do, you
Hmm.
know. And to me, a book like that should inspire any young woman. Say, if you have an idea, if you know you're right, if you have the will, never quit. That's your battle. Nothing and nobody can stop you. That was Joan of Arc.
That's beautiful. And I think having that kind of sentiment or that message ingrained, especially from a young reader, is very important. It gives you a very good
Mm-hmm.
understanding of, what you're fighting for and what you want to achieve out of life.
Yep.
It's very good. So before we kind of wrap up here, I just kind of wondering, as a successful author, what kind of advice would you give to young writers or beginners who are just starting their writing journey?
Uh, have a dream. Be
Okay.
honest about what you write. Uh, uh, Never quit. I give you a quote here of the Jack London. Remember Jack London?
Mhm.
He said, he was 18 when he says that. before he wrote all his books. And he
Hmm.
said, I will never spend one day of my life without to write 1,000 words.
Wow.
And he did. And
Yeah.
he came out with 35 books, you know. He died young at age 35.
Wow.
So, but this is a kind of thing. It's all this stuff. You want to write a book, it's an attrition process. Never give up, little by little by little. You will wake up at night and write a couple of pages and go back to sleep, you know, that kind of thing. But
Yeah.
never quit.
No matter how long it takes, keep going.
Right. That's right.
That's great. Well, I'd love to give people an opportunity to read this book. So can you please tell us where we can purchase your book?
Well, the publisher is Author Press, and I think it's Author Press run the show here for me. You know, I can do practically nothing from my side. I am busy in other business, you know. But I trust Author Press to help me on this. Okay.
Nice. And how has your experience been working with Authors Press?
Well, it's a good team, a good team. I have several issues about money and stuff like that, but overall, I had a good relationship with everybody at Author Press.
Great. Well, I think we're pretty much done, but do you have any final questions or final kind of comments that you'd like to make before we kind of wrap up here?
No, I hope all you have a lot of interview. You have an interview now for each of my books, so I think there is a lot to offer here, and I wait for success.
I hope.
One day we will go somewhere.
That'd be great. We'll, travel around like Joan of Arc,
Yes.
except the conquering and everything. All right. Well, I think with
Okay.
that, huh?
It was wonderful talking with you.
Oh, you as well. And thank you so much for all your insight and for anyone listening, please go get this book. It's amazing. Um, the message behind the book is just completely inspiring and very positive. So, but thank you so much, Francis, for your time.
No problem. Say hello to me to everybody at Author Press.
Will do. This is Nick over at BookBuzz TV, and once again, this book called "The Little Girl Who Became a Giant" by Francis Pitard is available on Authors Press. Uh, I don't know what else to say. Francis, thank you so much. You're very, 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 very insightful, and we look
Thank
forward
you.
to hearing from you in your next book.
Thank you very much.
Of course.
You have a good day.
You too. Bye.